This is part 3 of our 6-part series of testing the performance of 3 different kinds of projectiles in Ruger Old Army revolvers using 2 different kinds of powder. During this series, we're going to be looking at round balls, a standard 225 grain conical, and a heavy 255 grain conical made strictly for hunting. And we're going to test each of these projectiles with both Goex 3FG black powder and with Hodgdon's 777, a black powder substitute that's significantly more powerful. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the 225 grain conical bullet powered by Goex 3FG black powder. Now, we've done Ruger performance testing before, but in this series I'm going to try to address some of the criticisms we got in our earlier series. One of those criticisms, of course, is that we used a 14-inch barrel custom Ruger Old Army instead of stock lengths. I want to thank Rowdy Yates, a well-known black powder cowboy action shooter, for loaning me a couple of Ruger Old Army revolvers in the standard barrel lengths of 5.5 inches and 7.5 inches to use for this test. So many thanks, Rowdy. Now, the loading procedures for these 225 grain conicals are similar to loading a round ball, if you've seen the first video in this series. So once again, we're going to load the maximum powder charge that we can load with this bullet. And with the Goex, which we're going to be loading first, that is a 35 grain charge, which still gives substantial compression. So I'll pour in the powder charge. And if you saw the first video in the series, you know that we marked off on this dowel the powder charge depth, particularly for using 777, which I'll show you in a minute because it does not like compression. Well, the top line is the line for this conical bullet. And I just want to show you, that's how much we're going to be compressing this powder when we put it in. So we're going to be doing a lot of compression. So we've got the powder in. We don't use any wads with this. We're going to take the bullet and we're going to fit that in the chamber mouth and rotate it under the ram and straighten it out. There we go. And then we're going to set it home. And we want to make sure that the bullet nose is below the level of the chamber, so it's not going to hang up when it comes around in the barrel. And we'll load up 5 of these and then we'll be good to go. Let's check the accuracy of the 5.5 inch barreled Ruger Old Army with the 225 grain conicals and Goex powder. Let's check the velocity of our 225 grain conical bullets loaded with 35 grains of Goex black powder, and we'll start with the 5.5 inch Ruger Old Army. Let's see what kind of penetration we can get when we push a 225 grain conical powered by Goex out of the 5.5 inch barrel. All right, we got 8 and we exited it sideways, so we probably would have got more off of that. That's pretty impressive for Goex. Well, let's see what kind of accuracy we can get out of the 7.5-inch barreled Ruger at 25 yards using 225 grain conical bullets and Goex powder. Now let's see what kind of velocity we get out of the 7.5-inch Ruger firing a 225 grain conical with 35 grains of 3F Goex powder. So let's see. And now let's see what kind of penetration we get out of the 225 grain conical and Goex powder out of a 7.5-inch barrel. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we got 7 and an exit on top that time. Not having the best luck with this. I had an issue with the 225 grain conicals that I did not have with the round balls or with the 255 grain conicals. And that issue is that they were deflecting out of the sides of the jugs. What I was seeing is the first 3 or 4 jugs I was getting straight through, straight line penetration, and then the bullet would start to drift. And I don't know if that's a function of that sharper bullet nose being deflected by the water or what. I just know it didn't happen on the other projectiles, but it happened consistently on this one. And you'll see it also happening in the next video where we're testing it with 777.